G'day everyone and welcome to Blue Abroad. I'm Dan and this is Analytics Corner, the rivals, and today we're focusing on Port Adelaide Football Club. So without much further ado, let's get into it. 2019 was an up and down year for the Port Adelaide team. Many people had them in and around the finals. However, they spent it mostly on the outskirts. Inconsistency was the name of the year really. And one minute they could look like world beaters and then the next minute just self-implode. Stevie Motlop never really got going, the mature age recruit from Geelong. Wines was restricted to 12 games just due to a wakeboarding incident, and the failure really to convert inside 50 really held them back. They ended up the year top 5 in differentials for inside 50s, but it was just ineffective once it got in there, as only 3 of their players made 20 goals plus. It wasn't all doom and gloom though. The midfield became a chock-a-block of grit. They unearthed Dersma, they unearthed Houston in that role shift. Not to mention as well, Connor Rosie, Zach Butters, they had exceptional years. But Connor Rosie in particular was absolutely outstanding. In any other year was probably the rising star. The young list got a lot of games which will stand them in good stead moving forward. Hinkley though, probably on his last chance. He did say he thought he was going to get sacked because they didn't make finals. It looks like that'll be inevitable if they do. So let's see what happened when they brought players in. Was the first to arrive. He came in from Geelong through the delisted free agency. Now the key forward who also pinch hits in the ruck for Geelong's VFL side is a really good stable talent. He's a very good replacement for a team considering that they've lost Zach Ryder and Billy Frampton. And he booted an impressive 32 goals in 17 games last year for the VFL side in Geelong. He was unlucky probably not to break into the team, but he's a very good mark, good mobility, and he isn't afraid of getting his hands dirty. For someone who's 199, he's very good on the ground as well, very clean disposal. And in a league where it's becoming very niche to roam with 2 rucks, one who can pinch it forward, you could see him see some game time this year, and you could see be a decent acquisition for Port Adelaide. In the draft, obviously their first pick, they picked up classy forward Miles Bergman, an exciting prospect who really comes from a good youth outfit at Sandringham. He's got real X-Factor type player. He's got pure spark. He really looks to attack the ball and really look to make something happen. Forward pressure is everything in this league nowadays, and he exudes forward pressure. Real strong tackle, real good chase down pace, and he looks to lock the ball in at 50 if he can't get a score there. A natural athlete who really does read the pace and play of the game very well. Can mark in contests and can take a screamer as well. Good kicking ability, and I'd imagine he will feature at some time in the year. Next up was someone who just is probably familiar if you play Supercoach, as everyone has him, in Mitchell Georgidis. He was Port's big pick up next, a real tall forward, and we know tall forwards take time to develop. It's that old adage. But he does possess really exciting raw skills. This kid could be quite something. A Subiaco player and son of Footscray forward John, he combines textbook set shot. He's got one of the sweetest set shots in the game, real strong overhead, and he's got kind of a biblical like read of the play. He really reads the ball in flight well, and he positions himself exceptionally well inside 50. Was part of the leadership group at Subiaco, so I mean that is a skill that is in abundance in the league, young players with leadership capabilities. Of course though, with every positive there is some negatives. He does have histories of injuries, and he is a little bit shy in the tackle making department, but with coaching, this kid has a huge ceiling, and he could be the spark that's needed and primed in the next couple of years to replace Charlie Dixon, who really has never hit the peak that he so promised in his early career. The next pick was just literally a typical Port recent strategy pick, and that was a small forward who can potentially rotate through the midfield in Dylan Williams. Now he had an injury hit 2019, but in the games he did play. He did show that he's a real handful defender. He's got a bullet kick and he has a taste for the extraordinary. He's really a firecracker in the forward line. He's a one-man highlight reel, really. Has a set of jets that really allow him to escape pace, and he knows where the goals are. He looks to bring in people around inside 50. which is a huge asset for Port, particularly one that has struggled in recent years with their effectiveness inside 50. Again though, defensive pressure isn't his strong suit. And in a league where that is so paramount now, it will need to be worked on. But he is really someone worth tracking throughout the year because he can do the unthinkable. Real exciting prospect, Dylan is. And in the draft, the final pick was father-son Jackson Mead, the son of Port player Darren. And this kid has got footy smarts to burn. Clean, whether it's running through the middle or on the outside of midfield. He has a natural tendency to just attract the ball and find it with ease. He delivers really well. His delivery is really impeccable, particularly by foot. And he looks to slice defence open with a very direct kick. He looks to take the game on. He's one of these players that philosophises into the subscription of attack is the best form of defence. He's a natural leader as well, another one who's got captaincy experience, which really just suit Port's profile of recent years. Probably downsides is he hasn't impacted the scoreboard enough and probably needs some gym time, but follow him closely in the Sandful. Could be a really exciting player to watch. I reckon he'll have a real good Sandful year and he could be in line for a call-up back end of the year. In the rookie draft, they took a key defender, Jake Piscini. Now he's a real strong mark who really understands his craft as a backman. Reports are coming out that he's one of the hardest workers on the training track. He's a real soap for knowledge. And he has played all the levels of junior football. Now he will be looking while he's at Port to work on his frame and probably add a point of difference. He's very samey to everyone else. However, he has drawn comparisons in the last year or so of another late bloomer in Jeremy McGovern, which is a huge accolade to have for someone so young. And you can see the similarities with the way that he positions himself and he uses his frame to his strength, not his detriment. Finds the ball with ease, and that is a real huge commodity for a key position player. Someone who finds the ball, who can acquire touches. Real exciting prospect. Probably, like I say, this year will be a focus on just learning his craft, honing it in, getting a bit of body about him, and just really trying to work on them points of difference that make it, being a key defender really important in today's game. Finally, was quite a surprise to be rookie because he had a stellar 2018, son of Premiership player Peter Trent Burgoyne. And he's a player who probably would have gone a lot higher had it not been for his ins and outs of injuries. Real classy outside running midfielder who complements a list that has been criticised for having too many inside balls. Clean as a whistle by hand, clean by foot, and can play a variety of roles for a football club. Now his one negative is his 67 kgs. Obviously that is very lightweight. So I expect him to develop nicely this year in the Sandful. But he has exceptional high skill and it's very easy to work with. When you've got players at the club to coach him like Voss and Co, real exciting. So let's look at the round one team then. So backline we've gone with Darcy Byrne-Jones, Tom Clory, Ryan Burton, Hamish Hartlett, Tom Jonas and Riley Bonner. Now for me this is a really good backline. It's got that nice complement, of a ball use, line breaking speed, and let's go through some of them. So like Byrne-Jones for me is one of the most underrated players in the competition. He finds the ball well and he really looks to attack and take the game on. For me, I think that he's like the modern day back pocket. And then on the other side you've got Ryan Burton, again another good user, looks to take the game on. It's a very similar setup to most of the top 8 sides. I think Clory and Jonas do very well. Like they might not be outstanding, but they are very good and they are a very difficult matchup for any opposition forward line. And Hartlett and Bonner, you've got a bit of pace there, you've got a bit of tenacity. I think as a 6, it's a very, very strong 6. And for me, it's a 6 that wouldn't look out of place in the 8. Also got players, who you could make an argument for, like you've got Jackie Watts can come in there. We know Dan Houston can play there. But that's the 6 that I've gone with for round one. And I think for me, it's just a fairly solid side down the back. There's no glaring weaknesses. Now, if we get to the midfield, you've got Eamon, Rockcliffe, Dersmer, Lysett, Boak and Powell Pepper. No Wines for the first couple of games again this year. At the time of reporting here, we don't know how long he's out for. But, for me, Rockcliffe is an absolute bull in the midfield. He really started to show last year why Port acquired him. Anyone who can get 30 touches and lay that amount of tackles and cause that much difficulty is a solid player. For me, Dersmer and Eamon are real classy on that outside. They really take the game on and I expect big things, particularly from Dersmer another year in the system, who really started to get me excited as a neutral observer. Boak was phenomenal last year, and I don't think there's any getting away from it. He was absolutely sensational. Real exciting to see someone just in the twilight years of the career really just step up a level and really hit the scene and get the plaudits they really deserve. Paul Pepper, controversial pick, I know, but for me, he is one of them players that I can see just, that tenacity, that inside craft, that roughness, that rugged approach. It really does allow the better players to play. Sam Powell-Pepper's one of them players that gives the ball to a better player. Scott Lycett, he did very well in the ruck, if not spectacular. For me, I think that's a good midfield 6. I enjoy it. I think you'll probably see the end of the pinch hitting in the ruck, and I think Scott Lycett is ready to step up. He is a Premiership ruckman, and few and far between they are. And in the forward line, we've got Gray, Westhoff, Rosie, Butters, Dixon and Ebert. Now, for me, Ebert is one of the most underrated players in the competition. Huge in forward pressure, knows where the goals are, he's the modern day forward, and for me, I don't think he gets enough plaudits. I really enjoy watching Brad Ebert play the game. I think Zach Butters, for me, we'll talk about him later in the video, but I'm super excited about his development. I think his tenaciousness, his defensive pressure, his ability to make things happen, his agility, his real strong forward line. Gray, we know he can be mercurial, and he kind of falls into the category of Port's year last year. 1 minute can be brilliant, next minute can be okay. Westhoff and Charlie Dixon, if they can stay fit, you've got speed, movement, ability, aerial craft, goal kicking. For me, that's a real strong forward line, especially when you've got Ebert, Rosie roaming off the pack marks from Dixon and Westhoff, Butters and Gray. I mean, it makes things happen. There's a lot of rotation as well. You look at a lot of the top teams now, they're rotating forwards with midfielders. They have that. On the pine, we've got Houston, who I'm expecting, again, big things of, to roam in the midfield. Jack Watts, he's going to be a valuable acquisition. His ability to intercept mark and set up traffic and transit play, really important. Garner and Ladhams, I think it's a strong 22. Could be some changes to that, but I mean, that's just how I see it going. For me, there's probably an argument to be made Powell Pepper won't be there. But I mean, for me, that's a real strong 22 and should be able to compete with most sides. So 2020, what does 2020 have in hold? I mean, it's really finals or bust for Ken Hinkley in it, and can they do it is the big question. I think they'll come mighty close. I don't think they're going to bomb like some people are suggesting. I mean, I think this year it's a very tight league. I can see 14 sides minimum competing for that 8. And I think another year into the kids, and I think 2021 is the go year for them. You look at Champs Data, they have them 8th. TPI predicted they'll finish 12th. I personally think they'll finish 10th. For me, I think they're right in the middle of that. And I feel this side just needs a bit longer together to gel. Another trade or draft period, really to add the depth required to really make a punch at the 8. We know it is a very physical and very long season. But the indicators are good. They are top 10 for most of the stats you look for in a side about to make finals. Scores from turnovers that they rate high in. Marks inside 59 from forward, 50 turnovers, the top 10. It'll be close. But I do personally think they'll have a new coach round 1, 2021. So the one to watch this year is the one and only tenacious Zach Butters. Really impressed with this guy. He's really hard at it. He's got pace, has really good awareness, and I think him and Rosie are going to really form a fearsome duo moving forward in the AFL. I think both of them will get a bit of midfield time, but I really expect Butters to really shine in this moment. I can see him as a prospect, really agile. He's got that X factor and he's got skills in abundance. And I think he was unlucky last year just to have that niggly injury that only restricted him to 16 games. But he really batters through the defence, and he also has the ability to use sleight of foot to get in there. He really brings players into the game as well in and around 50. He's a really exciting player. He's got good skills, good eye for goal. And for me, he's one of them players that I think will just really thrive off having a fit Westhoff and a fit Dixon. For me, look out. I can see him kicking 20 plus this year, really breaking that bracket and helping Port with their goals there. So how do you beat Port Adelaide? Tough one. But I mean, last year they were probably the worst own enemy. They could beat themselves at times. They really did struggle to gain a consistent run. and get some momentum going. But I expect this year Ken Hinckley will have worked hard on that. There's a year in this side. Young sides take time, and I think you'll see they'll be a lot more stable and a lot tougher to beat. But teams did have success going on the outside versus part. We know it's a heavily documented thing that they have a lot of inside contested balls, and teams did look to move the ball away from the corridor as quickly as possible and then look to switch it back into the corridor moving inside 50, looking to target around the centre half back spot. And it was a very successful plan against them, and I can see that that's how teams will set up to go against them this year. It's the ability to shift the pattern of play. They are a momentum team, Port, and they have the ability to kick in clusters, but they can be wasteful. So looking to attack out wide and hitting up the corridor late does seem to be a traditional game plan versus them. You can also look to play a territory game, as putting pressure on the back line did result in them conceding goals and finding themselves out of position. It's a team that does like to play very quick. It's number one in the comp at moving on from marks. So you do have a lot of success as well, just slowing them down and ruining their game plan, disrupting their style. And sometimes they were guilty of trying to force that next kick because teams slowed them down. A lot will be dependent on personnel and if they can stay fit, but that's how I see it going. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Big shout out to Port Adelaide fans. Big shout out to Matthew DeLuca, one of the biggest Port fans I know. Hope Port have a great year this year. Wish you all the luck in the world, except when you come up against the Mighty Blues. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more content, and as always, stay navy blue, folks.